wala akong script. Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. The Senate Impeachment Court grants the House Prosecution Panel's request to subpoena the financial records of Vice President Sara Duterte, her husband, and 19 businesses linked to them. But the defense says the ruling isn't a setback, even as the presiding officer dismisses their claim that the request was a fishing expedition. How crucial are these records to the prosecution's case? Let's get on point with House Prosecutor Congresswoman Leila de Lima, who joins us now in the Senate. Congresswoman, good to see you again. Maraming salamat
Thank you.
po.
Good evening. Good evening, Pinky, and good evening to your viewers.
Pagod na ho ba kayo? Monday
Medyo.
pa lang. Day.
Every day, pag merong hearing, merong trial, siyempre nakakapagod. Hours of sitting there, listening, and then
Trying your best not to
trying,
react to
correct,
anything.
to be stoic about your reaction.
What was your reaction when you heard the decision of the impeachment court
Of
today?
course, the prosecution is very pleased, if not jubilant, about the outcome of today's proceedings. It was the continuation of the oral arguments on the twin requests of the prosecution for the production of those records, and it resulted in the favorable ruling, by the generally favorable ruling from the presiding officer, and no objection was interposed or was registered, and therefore it became the ruling of the impeachment court. So masaya kami. It was really a watershed and pivotal moment on the part of the prosecution, because these things about the production of those financial records are very crucial in terms of making our case for unexplained wealth, which is Article 2 of the Articles of Impeachment.
Did you have, any concerns, just personally watching the proceedings today between Congressman/Prosecutor Shell Diokno and, of course, Attorney Michael Poa, when the senator judges were talking about a lot of topics? Sabihin po natin, one was about search warrant, the other one was about a fishing expedition, yung questions being propounded to both the prosecutor and the defense. What were your thoughts?
Well, my thinking about that is that, wow, so many issues are being raised, now including the ultimate facts, that the complaints themselves, the Sabalia et al. And Cabrera complaints did not allege ultimate facts, and then binalikan din nila, the impeachment complaint against the president, making a comparison as if there was a violation of equal protection clause. And we were thinking that why are they going back to those issues when these were settled already by the House as the body with exclusive power to initiate impeachment cases. Mm-hmm. And the impeachment court is not supposed to be an appellate court. It's not an appeals court to be able to review and reverse the proceedings, the findings of the House as the initiator of impeachment cases. But then again, it was interpretation time. So the senator judges, the ones who raised questions, the siblings, were allowed.
Senator Pia and Senator
Senator
Alan.
Pia
Okay.
and Senator Alan were allowed, aside from Senator Villanueva. Now they're free to really raise all those questions for as long as relevant to the issues. But then again, going back to those issues again, are not supposed to be within the purview of the impeachment court, but they were allowed to do that. And we're confident, and we saw how Prosecutor Representative Shell Diokno handled everything with calm and composure, and with his sterling argumentation, the impeccable reasoning, but maintaining his calm and his demeanor.
What did you think, Congresswoman, that the presiding officer, and I don't know if this is possible, for the presiding officer to have ruled that some of the questions were not right, or should not have been asked during today's impeachment proceedings? May ganun ho ba? Pwede ba yun?
Pwede naman because the presiding officer, siya ang may, yun has the authority to make rulings. Now, and this is supposed to be understood to be the response or the ruling of the court itself, unless somebody objects, unless there's a contrary view expressed from any of the members and from any of the senator judges, and therefore it will be put to votation. It will be the vision of the House, so to speak.
All right. So I guess what you're saying is there were questions that were asked by Senators Alan and Senator Pia. Please correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, that you felt delved into questioning already what the House did during the impeachment hearings at the House of
Well, I'm not
Representatives.
really saying that those things can no longer be asked.
Okay.
Because, any of the senator judges can really raise those questions, and then reviewing the articles of impeachment, reviewing the records, and they're part of the records of the impeachment, of the articles of impeachment as forwarded by the House of Representatives to the Senate as an impeachment court. So I think giving them leeway, the senator judges who ask questions, is just but reasonable, it's just but proper also for the presiding officer,
Okay.
and then get all the answers, and then get all the substantial points that can be added to the ruling that was immediately issued after the oral arguments.
That's why I wanted to ask you about that. Did that obviously mean that there was a ruling at latest over the weekend already?
Well, they studied the matter already, the court itself, because they were given time, several days, to really go over the memoranda of the parties. Kasi sabi nung iba last week is that hindi pa daw nila nababasa. And I'm sure there have been discussions already, informal discussions, and in caucus, and maybe they have the consensus about it after reviewing the arguments of the parties in the memoranda, as well as the oral arguments, the start of the oral arguments last week. They started already the oral arguments last week, last Wednesday. Continuation na lang ngayon,
Right.
by allowing questions from the senator judges.
I guess what the point I'm trying to make is they were allowed to ask questions because we knew that after the oral arguments finished. But we also knew that a decision will be made today. So
Right
obviously, hindi ho ba?
Yes.
May decision na. Pero pinayagan lang to ask more questions to both the prosecution and the defense. Were there
Obviously.
any disappointments for you? Because when I look at it, there were two motions that the prosecution filed. One is to subpoena the bank records
And the AMLAC.
and the AMLAC. And then the second motion is
BIR.
to subpoena the tax records from the BIR. So when I read the whole decision, when I heard the whole decision, ang sabi po ni Presiding Officer Jesus Cordero, dalawa lang po yung in-exempt nila dahil wala daw prima facie relevance. These are the two companies, JPC.
Two or three.
It's two, ma'am.
Okay.
JPC and Picomong
Okay.
company. Did you have any idea about these, or would you know, because they said there was no relevance, prima facie relevance, ano ho ibig sabihin?
No, honestly, hindi ko na ano yung punto na yon, no. I have not really looked into the matter. Basta ang alam ko, yung mga business interests, yung mga business entities where the spouses, VP Sara and the husband have interest, ay sinama dun sa pagpapasabina para nga makita yung kalahatan ng yaman, and para makita saan yung mga nag-maintain pa rin ng participation si VP Sara, even if ito ay pinagbabawal sa ating saligang batas. Pero as to the relevance, the prima facie showing of that there's lack of prima facie showing, I have not really inquired into that.
So let's dissect them, Congresswoman. Yung request for subpoenas to banks for the VP, her husband, their joint, separate or joint accounts to the Carpio lawyers, also kasama po doon, and 19 listed companies to be surrendered or brought to the presiding officer on July 30 at 9 a.m. Ano po yung maaari, without of course going into the merits of the case again, maaari nating asahan dito sa mga bank records na hinihingi po ng prosecution?
Siyempre, unang-una makikita natin dyan ano yung mga bank transactions, ano yung mga transactions na mga meron, partisipasyon si VP Sara and her husband, ano yung combined assets. And then are these combined assets all reflected? Were this all disclosed in the SAL-N? And then yung accumulation of wealth na manifestly disproportionate to the lawful income. Kaya nga inano yung sa mga ITRs from the BIR records and even the listed companies para malaman ano ba talaga yung sources of income, ano ba yung mga lawful income or lawful earnings niya. Does that justify the massive wealth? Kasi kung i-base natin dun sa naging report ng AMLAC which was submitted to the House Committee on Justice, imagine 6.7 billion pesos, the wealth, the transactions, the
Suspicious and
suspicious transactions, covered and suspicious transactions. So definitely hindi ito tumutugma doon sa lawful earnings. We have to establish the lawful earnings and then the combined assets, the totality of the assets. Kaya nga tinitingnan nyo sa bank records, sa mga deposits, sa mga transactions, and para makita kung ito ba ay suportado ng lawful income, manifestly disproportionate to the lawful income of the spouses. At yun ba ay na-reflect, disclose sa SAL-N? Most probably not, kasi sa laki ng mga inaasahan na makikita. At nakita na nga yung mga yon doon sa report ng AMLAC. Ang kulang na lang yung confirmation from the bank records, from the banks themselves. Although, kasama nga yun, sila yung nag-report ng mga suspicious and covered transactions sa AMLAC.
Kaya po nagkaroon ng covered and suspicious transactions because it obviously came from banks.
Yes.
But Congresswoman, yung po kasi hiningin yung subpoena for bank records, these were not shown during the House Justice Committee hearings.
Yes.
But the AMLA summary was shown. As you mentioned a while ago, the 6.7 billion covered and suspicious transaction that flowed from certain years. Was it 2007 until
2007.
2020.
When she became vice mayor.
Right, until 2025, I believe, or
Yes,
2022.
as vice president.
So why did you have to subpoena that? I'll ask this question again, had previously asked, when you already had it during the House Justice Committee hearing?
Para makita talaga yung mga individual na mga bank transactions.
So is it going to be a more detailed?
More detailed
Okay.
from the banks. That's why galing sa banks ang pinapasabina para makita mismo yung deposito, yung mga pag-withdraw, ano yung mga inflows and outflows ng mga transaction na yan. In so far as individual banks are concerned, mas detalyado, mas komprehensibo. Para makita, imagine kung ganun talaga kalaki. Pero hindi naman yung tumutugma doon sa lawful earnings, lawful income niya. So ibig sabihin, ill-gotten, ibig sabihin unlawfully acquired, unexplained wealth. And natutuwa kami na talagang in-uphold yung position namin na pwede yung mga pre-term na mga ebidensya. Kasi although clarify nga nila na for as long as it does not establish a new and independent impeachable offense, walang bago na impeachable offense na charge, pero it will establish the baseline, the financial baseline ay pwede talaga makuha. So that was really it was very good for the prosecution to be able to get that kind of a ruling, including yung pagpapasama doon sa financial interest and assets ng asawa, jointly or separately.
Meron ho pa ba kayong inaasahan doon sa AMLA anti-money laundering report, council report, that you showed in the House versus the one that you will get, that you subpoenaed? Are you expecting something more, something different, or just something more comprehensive?
Ang gusto lang namin mailabas lahat. You know, whether it is more, this is less than what was initially reported by AMLAC through those suspicious. Kasi nga, we can assume na hindi naman lahat ay nag-submit o lahat ng mga suspicious transaction or suspicious transaction reports were submitted na kumpleto yon. So it could be more.
Okay.
Okay.
Papaano nyo ho, once you get that, papaano nyo ho, I guess, i-compute or ibabangga po yan? Who's going to be in charge of that?
Well, there is, of course, there will be a witness who will do that.
Okay.
yung itutugma-tugma lahat. I-explain lahat. So we cannot disclose yet kung sino yon.
But it's going to be an explanation that we will understand, Congresswoman. Kasi while, we know numbers, hindi naman lahat magaling sa math at hindi naman lahat
The prosecution
maiintindi.
shall endeavor to do that. Ang importante dito, maintindihan talaga ng publiko. Hindi lang ng senator judges, kundi ang publiko. Mas importante nga yun na alam ng publiko kung ano nangyayari, ano yung mga ebidensya na yun, ano yung mga pinapakita, para maintindihan nila kung bakit sinasabi namin na ito ay betrayal of public trust. That's the core question here. Is there betrayal of public trust? In the same manner na ibang grounds, ibang articles of impeachment is about betrayal of public trust. Kailangan pa ba siya? Pwede pa ba natin siyang pagkatiwalaan to remain in such a high office? So everything that we try to disclose, everything that we try to present to the senator judges, we are making sure that these are readily understandable even by laymen. Kaya we always reject the idea that this is a purely judicial proceeding. Yun, sa issue ng grave threats, hindi naman talaga ito criminal court, hindi ito criminal offense lamang. Grave threat is being presented here not merely as a criminal offense, beyond being a criminal offense, but an act showing or evincing betrayal of public trust. So ganun din sa ibang articles of impeachment.
Congresswoman, we just need to take a very short break. We'll continue our discussion with House Prosecutor Congresswoman Leila de Lima when we return. Stay tuned. This is On Point. Welcome back to On Point. Still with us, House Prosecutor Congresswoman Leila de Lima. Kanina pa we were talking about pasok po yun sa articles of impeachment na betrayal of public trust.
Actually, betrayal of public trust would apply to all 4 articles. Of course, the culpable violation of the Constitution also. Sa grave threat, other high crimes. Because pag sinabing high crimes, it did not necessarily constitute a criminal offense. So high crime pa rin yung grave threats, yung pagbabanta, yung ganong public admission na meron na siyang nakausap na tao para ipapatay ang Pangulo, the First Lady, and the former Speaker of the House. So all of this really goes into the issue of betrayal of public trust. Has she betrayed the trust of the public? A very high position, the second highest official, the second most powerful official of the land. You cannot just do that because you are betraying, and also your very oath of office. When you assumed your office, you're supposed to do justice to every man, and you're supposed to uphold all laws of the land. You are not upholding laws of the land if you tend to violate criminal law on grave threats, and even not a criminal offense, but again, it's a betrayal of public trust, yung tiwala na binigay sa iyo ng publiko.
The other motion, Congresswoman, that I'd like to talk to you about is yung pong BIR records. As mentioned a while ago, ito po yung box na ibinigay po ni Tax Chief Mendoza sa House noon during the hearing. And the decision, under prudence and being very safe, I guess, was for Congress to not unseal that box back then.
Yes.
Tapos dinala po hiba sa Senado, the Senate Impeachment Court, and the Senate Impeachment Court decided we're going to bring that back to the BIR. So now they said, all right, Tax Chief Mendoza, Charlie Mendoza, we are ordering the subpoena of the tax records, but will he do it? That's my number one question, because under the tax law, hindi ho ba, kailangan ng permiso ng Pangulo to be able to release that, or a waiver from the particular individual?
One thing is certain, the BIR commissioner must do it, must comply with the subpoena, otherwise he will be held in contempt. So to be safe, and also to shield himself for any possible liability, he has to get the authority or consent of the president. And I don't see any reason for the president not to give such a consent. So hindi naman komplikadong bagay ito. You know, it's a question of whether he is willing to comply with the subpoena under pain of contempt. If he does not do so, then he will be held in contempt and suffer the consequences thereof. But in order again to be safe, para lang hindi siya makasuhan, kanino man, for alleged violation of Section 71 of the National Internal Revenue Code, he has to secure the authorization. Remember what happened on the Corona impeachment trial? Then Commissioner Kim Manases, she complied with the subpoena. That was issued, the subpoena was issued even before the authority was secured from the president.
From Pinoy.
So it was on the initiative again. It was an initiative now of Commissioner Kim Manases to get an authorization because she is aware of what Section 71 provides. So ganun din dapat ang gawin ng current BIR commissioner.
Do you see any possible problems?
No, I don't see any possible problem because he complied already before. He tried to comply before the House.
It was in that box.
It was in that box. He complied by bringing that box. Only that he invoked, the Section 20A, that it can only be done, sabi niya, if the House then was in aid of legislation,
right,
was conducting the proceedings in aid of legislation with the further limitation that it should be done in an executive session. But we were arguing, because I was one of those who was pushing already for the opening of the BIR box. It's because I feel that the Constitution really is supreme over any law, any administrative regulation.
Even the National Internal Revenue Code?
Yes, even the National Internal Revenue Code. The Constitution is supposed to be supreme. And
Sorry,
the power of the
Congresswoman,
House...
And what part of the Constitution supersedes that? Ano po yung doon? The Senate sitting as an impeachment court or the House shall initiate all proceedings?
The House as having the exclusive power to initiate cases of impeachment. And then the Senate, the exclusive power to try and decide cases. That's the very authority. And it flows from the Constitution. So it cannot be hindered or blocked by any ordinary statute. That was my position. So minority, ilan-ilan lang kami who were pushing really for the opening of the BIR box. But we understood the concern of the majority of the members of the committee when they said that to be safe, then let's just forward this, let's just transmit it, and it's up to the Senate what to do about it. And the Senate again, well, it said, hindi namin ito gagawin kasi wala pa naman kami in custodia lehis. We have not really required the production of this box. So back to square one, but I see no complication with respect to that matter.
Now I remember, Congresswoman, I think that was the only time that you and Congressman Shell Diokno voted opposing, voted on that particular issue on both ends, on other ends, on opposing ends rather. Hindi ho ba?
Yeah, he took the side of extreme caution.
Ikaw po
bihira kaming mag-disagree with each other. That's one instance na hindi kami nag-agree. But I could understand his position and the position of the majority of the committee then.
So, moving forward, another issue is, of course, that these subpoena documents will be presented on July 30 at 9 a.m. But, according to the presiding officer, it will be handed over to the presiding officer on camera before, I think, being given copies to the prosecution and the defense. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the presiding officer just wanted to be very sure that there would be no really privileged matter that would come out. And what should be considered as falling within the realm of privacy and falling within the realm of confidentiality will not be disclosed prematurely. So I think that's just again on the exercising power on the side of caution.
Tomorrow, what can I know you cannot talk about what he will say, Melvin Matibag, Director of the NBI, but what are your expectations?
Well, it will be very exciting tomorrow with the presentation of the last witness for Article 4 in the person of the NBI Director Matibag. He will concentrate, he will focus on the follow-up investigation that was conducted by the task force because he created a task force. When he assumed office last February 2026, just this year, he issued an administrative order about the creation of a task force to conduct follow-up investigation on the threats against any and all forms of threats against the president, because it is a matter of national security. So ano bang ginawa? Bakit nagkaroon ng follow-up investigation? Ano ba yung naging scope ng follow-up investigation? And then pwede matouch din dyan tungkol doon sa assassin, yung tungkol doon sa kung sino yung kinausap ng Vice Presidente. So maaring lumabas din dyan. I cannot, of course, be disclosing further details. And then what makes it more exciting is that we don't know what the likes of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, he might be, and also the Senator Judge Padilla, Robin Hood Padilla, they might be raising issues against the NBI Director, which are unrelated to impeachment. Even
after the
Senator Judge
ruling of the presiding
Cayetano,
officer?
we don't know. They might be able to inject certain matters there.
Okay.
But of course, it would depend now with the control. Let's see how the presiding officer would be managing the whole thing.
Congresswoman, good to see you again and speak to you again. And we'll see you tomorrow, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me. Always a pleasure.
And that's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.